How about we animate that?
Hi, and welcome to How About We Animate That, the show where I, David Pagano, try to animate anything and everything. Today's show is a little bit different, as you can see behind me. What I'm animating today is actually the title card you just watched for this very show. So this title card was kind of a team effort. The title card itself was designed by my brother Mark. He designed it digitally. And then my brother Chris took that digital logo design and 3D printed all of the letters. And then what I did was I painted them by hand so that they had a little bit of a homemade stop motion-y quality to them. And with that in mind, how about we animate that? Oh, right, I'm still here. So here's the set. It's pretty simple. It's just 3 of these LED panel lights. And these are all tools that I use on a regular basis. As you're all aware, the shot starts with these tools sitting like this, and then they sort of knock themselves off screen, and the title comes in. To do this animation, I did a sort of a mock-up digitally in After Effects first, and I used that as a reference video for doing the final stop motion. To have the camera face down at the table, I took a piece of a tripod and attached the camera to it, and then I clamped that to a light stand using this clamp, and I've got a sandbag down at the bottom, making sure that nothing falls and crashes down onto the tabletop. And then off to the side of the main camera, I've got this tablet which is running a time-lapse software so that you get a kind of behind-the-scenes look of my hands and a wider view of the set as I animate this shot. And I do that for a lot of the shots that I do in this series, just so that you get another angle on what the stop-motion process looks like. So here's the digital animation of this that I did, and you can see I can fade between the live view and the lineup layer in Dragon Frame. And as I click forward, oh, the audio is also there too. You can kind of see how that goes through. And you also notice that this doesn't zoom in on the title. It's completely wide because that zoom is a digital zoom. That way I don't have to physically animate this camera going down. It would be cool if we did, but it's a little more work than I'm willing to do at the moment. Some of you eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that the SD card is missing here in the corner, and that's because it's in this camera being used to record this video. So I'm going to take it out and do the animation, and then I'll come back. Like I said, all this stuff is stuff that I actually use for animation, and we don't have a whole lot of extras. And we're back at frame 18. I just removed the memory card from the scene, so we're good to video again. Welcome. Here's the current state of these props, and I had the tape come off a little bit. I don't know if it's gonna look good, but I'm trying to have it just like unwind a little bit as it falls off screen. This is also the first frame where this clothespin starts flying onto screen, so I've got that going there. And this number here is just something that was on this cutting mat product, but as a little Easter egg, if you look in each of the episodes, the episode number is actually written there, and that's something I did digitally just as a little thing for people to find if they're really paying close attention. So I don't know why exactly I picked clothespins, but I've had a lot of these for a long time, and I try to pick the ones that have the most wear and kind of look the weirdest or most like old and decrepit looking ones. And if you notice here on this frame, this is the last frame that this clothespin here will be visible. So for the next one, it's gone. But I actually just took it and put it down here because that's the first frame that one's on screen. So if you're animating something and you don't have a lot of them, you can always reuse and make it look like you've got more than you do. So the clothespins are almost all off screen, and it's time to put the first word onto the title. Even though I've got this digital previs that shows me where to put the title, I still need to know how to translate that to what's on the set. So I designed this specifically to be on a cutting mat so that I could use the grid lines to tell me exactly where the letters need to show up. And the reason that this how just kind of appears out of nowhere is because when the digital zoom is happening, we're not seeing this whole image. You'll see what I mean later. The word about is starting to come on screen, and I was actually very careful to scale these letters so that when I'm looking at the lineup layer in DragonFrame, that they're the exact same size as the real letters are on set. And that was another reason that having this grid of very precise squares came in handy. So now we're getting into the really tricky territory. These letters are all super close together, and it's really tough to animate them without touching the other letters and bumping stuff. None of this stuff is blue tacked down or anything like that. It's all freely movable, so it is challenging. But this A needs to now move up and kind of be super close to this A. So this is really one of those areas where the reference digital version that I made will not line up with the final. And I paused there because I just noticed I tapped that A in About a little bit. So, okay, these letters are super close together, and I may have bumped them a couple of times. But after deleting some frames and using my trusty friend, the toothpick, I've got myself back on track, and I'm gonna finish out this bit of animation. And so, with only 2 hours of animating time, we've got a 12 frames per second version of the How About We Animate That title. The only hitches were the bunch of times that I hit the letters, because again, they're not taped down or blue tacked or anything like that. And you might think, oh, maybe I should have made the digital version like a little bit easier to animate. Because you can notice in the digital reference that I made, there's just some times where one letter overlaps another one, and that's not possible because they're physical objects and they can't occupy the same space. But I kind of like that. I like when I set out to animate something and I set it up in a way not that's necessarily easy for stop motion, but in a way that is closest to how I want it to look, or closest to the way I think will look best. I'd rather start from something cool that's in my brain and then figure out, oh, how can I stop motion animate that, as opposed to making everything super easy or very well suited for stop motion. Because when you try to animate that stuff that's like a little bit tricky or a little bit out of your comfort zone or experimental, that's where the really exciting stuff happens, and that's when you make stuff that is really neat to make. It may involve you messing up a few times, but that's where you learn how to do it better next time. Speaking of next time, if there's something else you'd like to see me animate, you can leave a comment on this video or go to our website and use the Contact Us page. You can do all kinds of stuff. And I'm gonna go take a nap now, but I'll see you next time for another How About We Animate That.